What's good, y'all? It's Evan from DMV Sports Zone giving you another weekly update on all things DMV sports. Sadly, the Commanders couldn't pull off the DMV football sweep this weekend, but the local college team still did pretty well. Let's start with the Maryland Terrapins, who wrapped up non-conference play this past Saturday. It was a real back-and-forth affair in College Park, but ultimately, the Terps came out on top 34-27 over SMU, thanks to a 5-yard touchdown pass from Talia Tagovailoa to Corey Dyches with 7:30 to go. Talia was absolutely on fire for this game. The win improved the Terps to 3-0. They're tied for third in the Big Ten East. Why did I say that? Because conference play for Maryland begins this week as they head to Ann Arbor to take on the 4th-ranked Michigan Wolverines. Michigan comes in with the same 3-0. They're part of that tie for third in the Big Ten East because Indiana and Penn State have already played and won conference games already. But the Wolverines are coming off a resounding 59-0 win over UConn last weekend. Michigan has allowed just 17 points this entire season through 3 games. Up next, let's talk about the Navy midshipmen. So this past weekend, Navy didn't exactly lose. They didn't exactly win either. They're coming off a bye. So the midshipmen remain at 0-2 on the season. Up next for the mids, they head to Colorado Springs to take on the Air Force Falcons. Air Force comes in at 2-1 on the season. The Falcons are actually coming off their first loss of the year, a 17-14 shortcoming at the hands of Wyoming. Up next, let's talk about the Virginia Cavaliers because it was another down-to-the-wire affair, this time in Charlottesville, but a 26-yard field goal by Brendan Farrell ultimately gives Virginia the win 16-14 over Old Dominion. The win improves the Cavaliers to 2-1. They're tied for 4th in the ACC Coastal Division. Why did I say that last part? Because this week the Wahoos also open up conference play as they head to Syracuse to take on the Syracuse Orange. Syracuse comes in at 3-0, 1-0 in the ACC. They're tied for first in the Atlantic Division. The Orange are coming off a 32-29 win over Purdue on a game-winning 25-yard touchdown pass from Garrett Schrader to Oronde Gadsden II with 7 seconds to go. And finally, let's talk about the Virginia Tech Hokies. So in Blacksburg, it wasn't exactly down to the wire. Virginia Tech did get the win 27-7 over Wofford, and Virginia Tech has now not trailed at any point in the last 2 games. So the win over the Terriers improves the Hokies to 2-1, 1-0 in the ACC, their first sole possession of the ACC Atlantic. And up next for the Hokies, they head to Morgantown to take on the West Virginia Mountaineers. West Virginia comes in at 1-2, 0-1 in the Big 12. The Mountaineers are actually coming off their first win of the season, a 65-7 drubbing of Towson. And this is a red-hot Mountaineer offense. They've scored 30 points in each of their first 3 games. And we're going to wrap up this update by talking about the Washington Nationals. So this weekend, the Nats did something that has eluded them for pretty much the whole season. They beat the Marlins. And they beat them 2 out of 3 this past weekend in Nats Park. This improves the Nats to 51-95, still last in the NL East. And again, they are eliminated from playoff contention. But here's the week ahead for Washington. Today, the Nationals head to Atlanta for a 3-game series with the Braves. The Braves come in at 91-55, second in the NL East. They are the 4th seed of the National League, so if the season ended today, they'd make the playoffs and they'd play San Diego in the wild card round. Atlanta's coming off a 3-game sweep of their series over the Phillies, and as is typical for NL East competition, the Braves have owned the season series against the Nats this year. And remember those Marlins that just left town yesterday? Well, we'll be seeing them again this week as the Nats, after a day off, head down to Miami to take on those Marlins in the Sunshine State. The Marlins are currently 60-87, 4th in the NL East. They are also eliminated from playoff contention. And as you've heard earlier, Miami's last series, they dropped 2 out of 3 in Washington. Well, that does it for this week's sports update. Follow along for more content from Noah, Nadi, and Abdullah as they cover our Commanders in their big game this weekend against the Philadelphia Eagles. And if I may, this is week 3, but it's probably the biggest game of the season, so I need all y'all to get to FedEx Field and get loud. Our boys could use every bit of energy they can get. Let's go, Commanders.